I was in my usual place in A&E. And there's a bit of a lull period in the day. And where I sit, there's basically a combination of what we call minor injuries. So minor injuries are basically broken something, jumped off something, cut something. Those then get handled by a separate team within A&E. Those are what we call our ENPs, emergency nurse practitioners. So but the list is mixed, right? So we have those, and then we have something like chest pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, which are the medical issues. So as I'm looking through the list, I see one which is palpitations. So palpitation means your heart racing, okay? Middle-ish kind of age kind of guy, 52. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can get a quick win here. I can send him to another area, just get him quickly sorted, right? He just needs certain observations. So your basic set of observations is going to be heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, respiratory rate, yeah, and an ECG. So he needs a tracing of the heart. So I bring this dude in. I'm like, "You right, John?" Obviously not his real name. Everyone's John in the examples. Right, John, how you doing? And he goes, yeah, just, and so he's talking in full sentences. Heart's racing a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, fine. But he looks okay. Now, when somebody's heart rate is fast, the consequence of that is your breathing rate also goes up, right? So sometimes people can then start talking like this because they're having to breathe too quickly, right? So that's never a good sign. And it's the converse. If your breathing goes off really high, so for example, let's say you're having an asthma attack and your chest is really tight, then your heart rate will go up. So those go hand in hand, heart rate and breathing rate. But he doesn't have this. So I'm like, this is before I've examined him. I'm like, oh, okay, his heart rate's not going to be that quick. I put my fingers on his pulse. So guys, if you're feeling for the radial pulse, this is what we call a peripheral pulse. Can't really see it in the camera, can you? On the side of your thumb, basically. It's what we call the lateral aspect, because it's going away. Yeah, perfect, Indy, just there. So 2 fingers, that's what we call taking a radial pulse, okay? Now, this is a bit of a sidestep, but in what we call a pre-hospital situation, so for example, I'm at the rugby match and something happens to somebody, we're not in a hospital, and I'm assessing that person, okay? If I don't have access to a blood pressure machine, I can estimate the top number of the blood pressure. Now, we have covered blood pressure before, so everybody knows this, the top number being the systolic, okay? I can estimate that based on which pulse I can find most easily. So, to have a good, strong radial pulse, you need a top systolic blood pressure of at least 90 beats a minute, okay? Remember, textbook, we said 120/80, so 90 is low, but 90 is still okay, right? To have a femoral pulse, so in your groin, okay, strong pulse, you need that top number to be at least 60, 60. You looking for it now?
I have a pulse in my groin.
Yeah, you want to find it now on the call?
I'm trying.
So use most
I
of
feel
your
a little one. Yeah.
No, it's really big. Use most of your hand. So use this, all the aspect of your hand. You can go in the groin. Next time I see you, I won't touch it, but I'll point it out to you.
Don't touch me, man.
I won't touch. No touchy. In emergency situations, if we can't get blood from anywhere, we do what we call a femoral stab. So we get a 10 mil syringe, green needle, bang, straight into your groin. Get the blood out. Yeah, that's right, Indy. That's right, mate. So next time you come with your IBS, mate, I'll be like, guys, this is a real emergency. I think he needs a femoral stab. I've only come here because my tummy hurts a little bit. Give him the femoral stab. Right.
Yeah, that's it. Give me the full works.
Full works, baby. MOT. So 60 for that. To have a carotid pulse, so the pulse in your neck, right? 50. So obviously, if you're really unwell, and let's say you're bleeding out, your blood pressure is likely to be lower, you might lose your radial pulse. Okay. Now, coming back to our story. So this man, put my fingers on his pulse. I'm like, yo! Like, I was like, I can't even approximate the rate. So normally the way we're taught in like an exam setting, if you want to calculate the rate without the machine telling you, is you have a watch, okay? You count 30 seconds, you count how many beats, and then times it by 2. That gives you the beats per minute. Or you can count for a full minute. Too fast. And at this point, 10 years into the game, I have too much. Well, I don't have too much. I have enough medical experience to be like, shit, this is fast. Get an ECG done because I need to know what's going on and what's the pulse. So I step out to make a call. to the heart guys, cardiology guys. I was like, you're going to need to know about this guy. Come back in on the monitor, it's showing 209 beats a minute. 209, baby. Yeah, that's right, baby. 209.
Have you ever seen a number that high?
Not in real life. So in exams, in textbooks, in cases. I mean, the fastest I think I've seen before this is 180. That was a dangerous heart rhythm as well. But 209. But here's the thing. He's 209 and he's awake enough and he's speaking to me. Right? Because remember,
In
if
full
somebody's
sentences,
awake,
coherent, everything.
yeah, and which is telling you what that means. Again, I haven't got the blood pressure yet, but I remember I've got the pulse. So I know it's at least 90. The blood pressure came back normal. It means, although his heart rate's going that fast, he still has enough blood pressure, enough blood to go to his brain so he can talk to me and be awake. For now, you cannot maintain. The thing with fast heart rates is you can't maintain that forever. At some point, you'll what we call decompensate. You'll just go, and then heart stops. Right? We do the ECG, the tracing of the heart. Right? He's in an arrhythmia. An arrhythmia is not your normal heart rhythm. So your normal heart rhythm. So if you took your pulse now, Indy, actually, let's do it on the podcast. Just put 2 fingers on your pulse. Right? And when you feel it, what you're feeling is a bit like this. It'll be like, dum, dum, dum,
Yeah.
dum.
I feel exactly that.
Right? So it's regular, okay? Because it's regular, it's in time. If I did an ECG of you, I would get what we call sinus rhythm. That tells me the electrical activity in your heart is firing in all the right way, giving you this regular thing, okay? When we did, you can stop 90. When we did his ECG, you obviously don't want to stop. When we did his ECG, he was in what we call an SVT, supraventricular tachycardia, okay? Basically put, now this is interesting because we've covered the 4 chambers of the heart. Top 2 going berserk. And I'm like, oh, shitty diddy. Because remember, the site of A&E that I'm in is the walk-in area. This isn't set up to deal with this. So a couple of things I need to do here. I need to assess him very quickly. I need to escalate his care. So I need to get him moved over to what we call a high dependency unit or area, sorry. So in A&E, that's going to be resus. Resus is normally what they show you in the 24 hours in A&E. It's like where the sickest people go.
Yes, it is.
And obviously I need the cardiologist to potentially come down. What do I do in the meanwhile? So I give him a 20 mil syringe. Right? Now I tell him, in the mouth, blow as hard as you can. Blow as hard as you can. Right? Until I'm arranging for this transfer to happen. That's the best thing that he can do. What that's called is so it's called a modified Valsalva maneuver. It's the same thing you're doing, like say when you're straining to do a number 2. Okay. What that does is in your body, you have 2 basically sets of nerves. You have your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. Sympathetic drive things up. So like when your adrenaline goes up and you get flight to flight, that's loads of sympathetic drive. Okay. The opposite is your parasympathetic slows everything down. So by doing this funny maneuver, what you're doing is you're increasing vagal tone. Increasing vagal tone drops your heart rate. What I'm trying to do at this point remember, I haven't got a cannula, I haven't taken any bloods, I haven't got like pads on him. There's nothing on him at the moment, right? Just an ECG. I'm trying to use this, what we call a bedside methodology to slow his heart rate and put him from the funny rhythm. So this is my dance that I do when I'm teaching medics. This is the SVT, okay? Back into sinus, normal. What you have right now, Indy, when you're feeling your pulse, right? I want to go from this to this, controlled, right? The 3 things you can do before you get access to medication to slow somebody down or shock them back into it, okay, is blow into syringe, find the carotid pulse we talked about in the neck and massage it. One side, not 2 sides, one side. And thirdly, get anything cold and put it on the end of the nose. They all work in all the same ways when you're trying to increase that vagal tone to drop the heart rate and put it back. So we get the man moved over into resus. He's still batting along, speaking to me, so he's fine. Now, we're at the point now we would consider, okay, is this going to work? Or do we need to give you medication? Okay. And the medication we would give in this scenario can lead to the heart completely stopping. So we would attach what we call, the crash pads, which you will see in like gyms and things. So the AEDs, the pads that we have. Obviously, we have different versions in hospitals.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll attach the pads in case we need to basically shock you. That's basically it. Anyway, now, nurse from heaven, reference to heaven again, is in the resus area, and she says, listen, John, blow on this like your life depends on it. the best instruction I've ever heard. Because before this, I'm saying, look, blowing is pretty hard. Da, 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 da. She says that. Oh my God, he goes for it. Boom! Heart rate drops from 209 to 110, and he's back into sinus rhythm before I have to give him anything. And I
That's
was
all
like,
it took. One blow.
yeah, bro. One really, really big blow. And I was like, yo. Obviously, we started to monitor him. We kept him in for a little while, the next 4 or 5 hours. Made sure he didn't flip into that other rhythm again. Did his blood tests. Tried to work out what caused it. He ended up being COVID positive. We think maybe the COVID had flipped him into that funny rhythm. Historically, I think he'd been in it before as well. But yeah. So guys, if you're at home and you're known to have SVTs, and this happens, and I had another case that day where a similar gentleman, it's a maths teacher actually. We had a good chat about Ramesh, and trying to convince him to leave teaching as well and become like Ramesh, this guy.
Yeah.
And he was saying the same thing, that it can happen sometimes, that your body goes into these funny rhythms. Buy an Apple Watch. That's very good because it can do ECGs. So I've got
Or a whip strap.
Does it do ECGs?
No,
Does
it
it?
measures your heart rate though.
Okay, fine. So it's
Yeah.
not bad, but I think iPhone can measure heart rate, bro. It's not that impressive. So yeah, like I said,
Your iPhone? No, it can't.
heart rate. No, not in health. Doesn't
If
do
you
it?
hold your iPhone in your hand right now, it measures heart rate.
I don't know. I'm just speculating. Doesn't it? I feel like it
You're
would in health.
chatting. No, it doesn't do that.
Okay, maybe I'm reaching.
No.
No, maybe not. Okay, fine. But yeah, nothing at home. Something cold on your nose. Massage your neck. Blow into a syringe. Okay, simple things can save your life, or until ambulance get to you or whatnot. So yeah, that is the
If you blow into a bag, is that the same thing?
no. There has to be some pressure
What
on
if
the
you
other
don't have a
side.
syringe?
Yeah, so you can mimic like you're straining. So you go, hup, like I'm doing now. Hup. See what I'm doing? It's hard to see until you do it. Yeah, you're trying to increase that pressure. Does the job. Did the job here.
Jeez,
There you
Garen.
go, mate.
Modern day
209.
lifesaver.
209. Man, I was just like... And it's one of those scenarios where junior members of staff don't appreciate how quickly this person can become unstable. Because the fallacy is, he looks really well right now, right? Which is fine. He does look really well right now, but that's not the point. It's the ability to recognize what can happen and quickly. So you need to act quickly. So in those scenarios, your mind just gets really sharp. You drop everything else. What's the next 3 things I need to do? Boom, boom, boom. Get it done. Yeah. Just another day.
Sensational. That was good. That was actually gripping. Very good storytelling, Garen.
Gripping.
10 out of 10.
Just another day on the front line. Yeah. ਮੈਨੂੰ 10,000 ਮਿਲਣੇ
Alright, next segment.
ਡਾਕਟਰ ਬਰੋ ਨੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ